So, continuing our conversation from yesterday, looking at CBDCs in China and El Salvador adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, Panama, a representative there, has said that he's going to introduce a bill to make Bitcoin legal tender. This comes on the heels of Paraguay, Congressman there, saying something similar in terms of trying to pass that through their house. So this is a trend. Obviously, now at this point, we're seeing more and more countries talk about this. But what I think is interesting here is this is actually the opposition party, to be quite clear. This is not a majority party that's going to be offering this up. And there's still a lot of gray area that's going to come out of it. They're taking a month, it seems, to kind of talk to lawmakers, get public input on what this might look like. But they also flagged, the congressman, that what's interesting is that the Panamanian Constitution does not let the government mandate certain things as legal tender. So that's, again, sort of in opposition to what we've seen in El Salvador. So I just think this is a really fascinating trend, and we're starting to see kind of the lines get drawn in the sand of how countries may or may not go with this. Will, what you got?
Yeah, it's just been a crazy year for crypto Twitter, and now we're all becoming experts in South American and Central American political law. So
we're all experts at this.
We're all experts now. It is interesting to see that there's more dominoes in the line behind El Salvador. Personally, I thought there might just be a one-off for a little bit, but there could be a few more countries coming down the line, or at the very least, there's just going to be more conversation about adding Bitcoin into these countries' economies, even if nothing happens with it. Even if it's like an opposition party that has like a one-off conversation with about it and it dies in like an assembly House bill or whatnot. Like that's a good conversation to have, because I think these Latin American countries have more or less just been beholden to the US dollar for decades, and that's not a great place to be if you're trying to be a sovereign state. And just the ability that Bitcoin brings to the table to maybe even go against the grain and go against the US dollar, that's an interesting macro conversation that Bitcoin hasn't had, except for in some really esoteric circles on crypto Twitter. It's actually happening in major news outlets across the world and in these Senate and Assembly hearings. So interesting just to kind of zoom out and see that. Naomi?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting that once again you have a country that adopted US dollars back in 1904, and you have the separation of money and state, and they're the ones who are deciding to adopt Bitcoin. Because Panama doesn't have a central bank, they don't have all the perks of printing money, and they're beholden to the US. Like Will, you said that it's hard for a sovereign if they're trying to be a sovereign country to do that. I mean, I would say that's a different point than the one I would emphasize, which is that for a long time, the US dollar has been a great way for them to, run their economy. It's been a lot better than a lot of currencies across the world. But what we're seeing recently, people are wondering whether that is about to end because of all of the money printing that is going on that's completely unprecedented. So, it served them for a long time. They were happy to use it. They were probably grateful to use this. And now perhaps they're deciding that it's not serving them. And Bitcoin is a better store of value for the people there, which is super interesting because we will not see that from a government where they do have a central bank, because it's not in their best interest to allow people to go to an alternative. And just adding what you were saying, Ben, about the mandate, it is a very different situation to El Salvador. I'm really excited about the Panama situation because, as you said, the Constitution prohibits the government from mandating only certain currencies as legal tender. And El Salvador, as we know, has issued a mandate saying that Bitcoin has to be accepted at tender in spot trades, not just for covering past debts. So that's a rare occurrence that hasn't happened in many countries that El Salvador did. It's quite draconian. A lot of the crypto community was kind of taken aback by that. And so that now Panama is entering into this, we know that that's not going to be part of it. It's going to be purely of people's own volition. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it feels like a continuation of a way to use Bitcoin to kind of call attention to maybe other issues as well. Like I said, this is the opposition party in Panama. This is not like the dominant party there. And so I'm curious about what the political platform that goes along with this and the political inclination is going to be that goes with it, right? It could be pointing at the, relative weakening of the US dollar in some ways, or just the idea of like sovereign control, but like you were talking about. And so, I'm really fascinated to see Bitcoin be worked into these political conversations and used for political purposes in a way where it is inherently neutral, because to me, whenever you get politics, right, there's motivation, there's power. Nothing's like pure in the sense. And so that to me is going to be interesting to watch, is the way that this is going to be leveraged. And I think we do need to see more details come out before we get really excited about these things. Right now, these are just like announcements about proposals about a potential bill. And there's not sort of like there's not Jack Mallers talking about strike and how that might potentially be involved or something like that. There's not the infrastructure clarity maybe that we've seen start to come to light in some ways in El Salvador. So a lot to watch here. But Anna, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think like politics can really muddy the waters here, and we don't see yet if this decision in El Salvador will have any real life implications. If people would really like rush to stack Bitcoins to use them, or it will just end up as a populist twist, that will earn the president some points at the global scene, I would say, not maybe on the national scene, although I don't know about that. But if it really works, it's going to be a really big macroeconomic experiment to watch in the wild.